Alrighty, here I am inside the car. So I do apologise for the previous video. The audio was completely messed up. The camera was set to record internal audio only and not to set up to use the external mics. I didn't realise it till I was editing the videos later on, and by that stage I'd done everything, so I wasn't going to, pull the bull bar back off and redo everything again, or even do a voiceover, because it wasn't worth it, and you can still make it out. And if, you don't like it, don't care. It is what it is. So the very first video you saw me with this car, it had the 3-inch 80mm lift tough dog suspension in it, completely messed up. So we're going to put it in the proper way. Whether that's going to be the final suspension I leave in this car, I don't know, but we're going to start with that. Put everything in that we have and then try and work out the steering geometry, trying to reset a few things. This car does have an issue even at the moment on stock suspension. When you're going around a left-hand corner pretty fast, so anything over 80, the traction control kicks in and the whole car, locks up the front right and tries to right itself. I think that's got something to do with the way the steering is at the moment, the sensors, but I wasn't going to worry about it until I get the suspension in, and then we'll get it all aligned and go from there. It's been okay. I've driven nearly 4,000 Ks like that. It's only around a left-hand corner when the right hand gets loaded up a little bit. But yeah, so the reason why the suspension was completely messed up is I will show you right now. Like, this is a right-hand drive car. Driver's on the right-hand side, battery's on the right-hand side. So all the main weights are on this side. When they make suspension, especially for this car, for whatever reason, there is a right hand and left hand spring that you put on the correct side of the car. That wasn't done. Well, that was done, but the rears were in the front and the front was in the rears. So that completely changed the geometry and the stiffness of the springs anyway. So first thing we're going to do, jack up the car, take the wheels off the back, only the back. We're not going to do the front just yet. If you have a proper hoist, go for it, go nuts. But if you're doing it in a shed like what we are, just do one end at a time. Makes life so much easier. That way, once the rear's done, put the big tyres on, you can lift the front up and you've got a little bit more room to play with. But that's what I'm going to do anyway. So we'll do that right now. Okay, so once again, it's not rocket science. The front springs actually say front on them. The rear springs have got right hand and left hand. It's not rocket science, but the previous person managed to stuff it up. And then on the fronts, because we've got the bull bar on, these have got the tops, but just the extra spaces to counteract the weight of the bull bar, especially once the winch goes in. That's what these are mainly for. So the fronts look a lot bigger than the rears. You had the rears in the front with the spaces on them, obviously to think that that's how it's done, but that is not how it's done at all. So don't forget, we want to jack the car up and then put the stands on the chassis, because we're obviously going to be lowering the diffs and removing the springs. There's no point putting the stands underneath the diffs. The amount of times I've seen people do that as well. We want to go high-ish, enough so you can work underneath it, but we don't want to max out the top of your stands either. You don't want to be playing with fire. Oh, did I also mention that this episode is brought to you by my sponsor, my bank account. So if you want to sponsor, let me know. All my details are on YouTube page. You know where to get in contact with me. Okay, so now it's up on stands. Just leave the jack underneath the diff for the moment, not with any real pressure on it, just while we take the wheels and everything off, and then we can cantilever it whichever way we need to get the springs in and out. Now, I should have said this before we jacked up the car. If you don't have an impact gun, oh, it's such a tiny impact gun, look at it. 12 volt, that'll never work. 780 Newton meters, it'll work, don't worry about that. If you don't have one of these before you jack the car up, make sure you loosen the nuts, because otherwise they're not going to come off. So easy. You can keep that in your car, like that could be part of your little rescue pack. 12 volt. You can actually get chargers to plug into the cigarette lighter to charge it back up. Very, very much worth it. All right, let's get rid of these tyres. Just going to take the other tyre off and then we'll zoom in and I'll show you what I'm doing there. So this is the part where we've got a couple of options. You can do the shocks and the springs, and then the part that was missing, either the caster correction or full radius arm replacement. We're going with a full radius arm replacement with the caster correction already done. A lot of people get worried about undoing things. So a couple of ways you can do it. If we do the radius arm now, you've got the shock and the spring and everything holding the axle in place, so it's not really an issue. Or you can do it on the ground later on. It's up to you. Because it's such a light car, you can move the diff around pretty easily. I'm going to leave the shock in place anyway, and then take obviously the brake hose line off, and then undo these bolts for the rear radius arm, and I'll do the radius arms now before I do the springs. Just make life a bit easier for me. Just got the front section to remove, and then it's all out. Here we have the original one. So weight wise, let's have a look. New one is a little bit heavier. Exactly reverse procedure of what you just did. Except this time I'm not going to fully tighten everything up until I get the back section in. Let's make everything finger tight. That bolt's in. This back section here, this back bolt, is the only one that's not lining up properly, because that's where the diff needs to rotate. So this needs to come up. You might not be able to get this bottom one in just yet, but that's okay, we've got the other two in. And it's because we need to rotate the diff once we take all the suspension off in order to get that in. So that's not the end of the world. That'll just happen once we take all this other crap out of the way, that's all. So now we will take the bottom of the shock off, and then we'll do the top. Just makes life a lot easier. Because if you try and take the top off, all the load's on it if you haven't jacked it up properly. But we'll do the bottom, then we'll do the top. So now that this side's done with the radius arm, except for that last bolt, I'll do the same to the other side. Then we'll come back here and start stripping off the shocks and the springs and everything else, just to keep it all nice and even as we go. Just for a bit of reference, on the driver's side, I put the bottom one in at the back and left this one out and did the front one up. So you can see it's out by, it's about 12 mil out and a bit of a rotation. So the diff's going to rotate up a little bit with the springs, but that's what this is here to fix. Bring it all back into alignment once the springs come on. So the new shocks and springs obviously going to push this down and rotate it up a little bit, and then I have spaces for the prop shaft front and rear to bring it all back to proper geometry. That's why you need to do this. Worst case scenario, you know, if you just change the caster bushes, they're offset to counteract for this. That's the whole reason why they're offset. Or you buy the proper ones like this and do it this way. which is what we're doing. Okay, just going to take the bottom of the shock off. This is on the left-hand side of the car. If you get upset about people using chrome sockets on impacts, yeah, look away now. There we go. Take the top off, which is a little bit trickier. You just got to get your hand in there and wiggle it around a little bit. Alrighty, now we're going to undo the panhard rod on the rear, just on the side at the moment. Shouldn't drop because we've got the jack underneath it. Okay, so that's out. We'll take the other side out as well, because we might as well. Okay, that is out. What I might do while I'm here is I'll just take the bottom off this suspension. Yeah, we'll do that. That way we've got a little bit more play. That way the jack is the only thing really holding it up. Oh, besides the arms here, but yeah. Of course I need 18 again, don't I? So now, before we get too carried away taking springs out and that sort of thing, first thing you want to do is remove that headlight leveling bracket just from the diff. Can't quite see it, but it's on the other side, because you need to replace it with an extension piece. It goes like that. Then you put the other bolt through, and then that bolts up on the other side of the diff. Leave that all loose until you change the springs. So then the only thing you have to worry about is the rear brake line here. You come with an extension piece. I've already put these on. So if you're doing this for the first time, you have to replace this as well. So I'll do that first before you start worrying about where the springs and that are going to go, because you need a little bit of playroom. So definitely leave this off, or you can put this bit on like that and then throw the other bolt through. But yeah, so let's get ready. I'll mount this up and then we'll start lowering down this to get rid of the springs, and we have to change the bump stops as well, just to make life a little bit easier. Before we take the spring out, these have to come off. Just get yourself some vice grips. There's like a little metal flange at the top. If you're worried about wrecking them, you put it on that and you can undo them, and then just hand screw off. Bam. It's like an acorn. So that's the old one out. Now we can lower the diff, but keep an eye on the rear brake line there, just to make sure you don't overstretch it. Got heaps of room, heaps of room. And that's the right side out. Nothing stretched. Cool. Keep that like that. We can take that one out. Now this is where we need to pay attention, because people don't. Now we're currently working on the left-hand side of the car. Make sure you grab the one that says left-hand side. That's in. Do the same for the other side. Grab the one that says right-hand side. And the writing should be facing up too, so you can actually read it. Now it's going to put a little bit of tension up on the jack, on the diff, just to lift them a little bit. There we go. So they're seated in the right spot. So while we're here, we'll install the extended bump stops. So if I've got the old ones, that's the size difference actually. Space that goes on, so It's the size difference. They're a lot harder in rubber too. And once again, just twist them on, nice and easy. You just crank these on tight with your hand, you don't need special tools. Like so. Then we're nearly ready to put the shocks in, which I painted yesterday. So I've got to put the rubber boots on, and yeah, I'll bring one in a second. I'll just do this to the other side now. So the tractor's doubling up as a bit of a spray booth for today. I'll just put them on there, so that's why it's wobbling around, but I'll clean up a little bit more and then we'll start painting. Before we put the shocks back in though, just go around and tighten up all the bolts on the radius arms, because now that the bolts have all slid in, I've still got them just hand tight. So tighten all them up, put on the headlight bracket for the headlight adjustment, get all that mounted, and then the only thing left to do is the rear bars and the shocks. But we'll get to that in just a second. Like out of all of this, the top mount for the shocks, it's not the hardest, it's just the most annoying. You don't have much leverage to tighten it up. Just left it loose at the moment while we put the bottoms in. Like so. There we go. Now I just need to lift the diff up to get the shocker on the right hand side, because it's at full travel at the moment. So I'll just lift it up like that. It should be enough. It's not enough. Keep going. Starting to come off the stand, so I don't really want to go any higher than that. There we go. Just give that a tap. And she's in. Okay, now it's time to put the rear adjustable panhard rod on. What you want to do is just match them up and adjust it so it's the same length as the original one. And then when you get your wheel alignment, that sort of thing will be adjusted later on. But to start off with, make it the same length or as close to it as you can get it. That's what we've done here. And this end, the adjustable end, goes on the lower side at the rear. It's just how it is. I didn't make that rule up. But then on the front, I think it goes to the top. I'll have to look that one up. Can't remember when I took it off, but yeah. So this end towards the left of the car at the bottom. Put that end on first.
Okay, for whatever reason the audio's dropped out again, but all I've done is put the adjustable panhard rod on the left, one bolt in, put it up in the right hand side, put the other bolt in, and you are good to go.
So that's the rears done. It's only, a little bit higher. Now I've got to swing everything around and do the front. But I'm going to leave it with the stock wheels, get it all fully done, take it for a drive with the stockies on, see how it goes, and then I'll put the other wheels on which came with the car, which I'm not really going to use, but I just want to see the look of it essentially. If I can have to use 31s, or I can get away with something a little bit smaller, and then a little bit more flexy and not so much rolling resistance. 31 by 10.5s, which are on stock wheels on the other set that came with the car. Yeah, they seem to be a little bit too wide, especially for the front, but we'll have a look when I get to that stage. In the kit, you'll get the brackets for the front cross member there. Just do that now, makes life a bit easier. And also, extended brake lines for the front as well, which are there. So do them now before we start pulling stuff apart. First thing I'm going to do with this is the arms again, so the radius arms. We'll drop the Swaybar because I also have a new Swaybar to put in, and Swaybar extension kit because it's going to be lifted 3 inches essentially. So let's get to it. The front really needs a wheel alignment. It's way out. I've also centered the steering wheel, so inside the car, made sure the steering wheel's center. It's going to get bumped around a little bit, but these are notorious for once you start changing geometry, the center of the steering wheel will be out, and people just then try and move the steering wheel around, which is not the best way to do it. You got to do it properly, which is what we're trying to do. All right, so in order to get the radius arm out from in there, had to undo the lower bolt on the shock. No big deal. But yeah, just be careful of that there. And what I've found is, I'll show you in a second with these other ones. Okay, so I've just taken the left side radius arm out, and there was caster corrector bushes put in there. So that side of things was done. Everything else was wrong, but they were put in. So, because otherwise they would have looked like this, been in the center. The reason why these ones are a little bit better than that is because these are bent to suit the actual caster, and they're adjustable so you can move forward and backwards depending on how far you want to go. I've just adjusted them so they're the same length as these ones here, and yeah, I'll do the same to the right hand side one, and then we'll throw this one in. So at the moment all I can do is get one of the front, so the middle one in, because I need to drop this down more, but there's a few things that are restricting it. I'll take the sway bar off, so I'll disconnect that. I've got to put the new one on anyway. Take the front mount off the shock, then the spring will come out, and we'll do this side first before we switch over to the other side. I don't think the back is lining up yet, so I can't get the radius arm fully tightened up. No, that needs to come back at least a centimetre. But we'll sort that out once the spring comes out, and undo the sway bar. Because at the moment the whole thing's shifted that way. No big deal. Oh, I might, actually, I can if I pull it, and get it back if I pull it. So, there we go. Back one's in. Makes things a little bit safer. All right. Let's take the sway bar off and the front shock. So for the front sway bar, it's just a 14mm nut. That's on really tight. And front sway bar is disconnected. One thing I did stuff up though is when I put the bull bar on, I should have done the sway bar then, because underneath the bash plate, which I'll zoom out, so like underneath the bash plate, I've got to take this off to get to the bolt to take the bracket off. So that's a little annoying, but it is what it is. It's like 6 bolts, no big deal. All right, back to the shocks and the springs. Okay, so the shocker should come off now. Just undone the top nut. So, don't have to use that again. All right, now let's lower this down, pop the spring out, and hopefully get alignment for this front radius arm. There we go. Radius arm's in alignment now. Get that bolt in. So that just shows exactly how much drop you need to have to get the proper caster correction. Right, I'm pretty much not on any support now. To go further, I need to take the brakes off the other side, but I should be able to lift this one out at least. So we can do that. So I'll have to see if we've got the space to put this spring in, because I also need to put the spacers in, counteract with the bull bar, and take these out and put the new ones in. Now to remove the front bump stops, they're not threaded in like the rears, they're just pressed in. So let's get some multi-grips. It's like a little plug piece at the top. It should come out like that. So get them in, you have to put them in and whack them with a mallet. But now there's a hole that goes all the way through, and the new ones, the extended ones, are a little bit different. In that we have a long bolt and a washer. So that threads in like that. Then we have a spacer, locks in like that, and then these thread on from the bottom. And it's the 8mm hex nut on top. So just get it started. Like so. Grab your Allen key. Just give them a bit of a nip up. So here's the fun issue that we have at the moment. I'm going to try and get all that in there. So that can go in. That's easy. But need to lower this whole side completely. The only way we can do that is by taking the shocks off the other side. Okay, so now that the other side's fully disconnected, I'm just going to take the front panhard rod off. There's a little split pin at the back you got to take out. And take that out. Put it back with the split pin. I'll take the steering arm off the left side. Need to replace the steering stabilizer anyway, so we'll do that as well. That'll give us a lot more flex. Now, before you get too excited about taking that off the whole way, let's get the nut to there and give it a good whack. It'll drop out. Take it off, and there we go. Set that back on there so we don't lose it. Essentially need to compress it a few inches. So here's the perfect example why you watch these videos through all the way before you attempt this. Now, at the start I said to do the brake lines and the cross member and that sort of thing. If you don't do that and you're doing more than a 2-inch lift, you're going to be stuck with the same issue I have at the moment. You can't get this spring in, even with the diff fully lowered down. So I've had to order spring compressors. I went to 3 different shops. They didn't have any. Well, the first shop had 4 sets, but they couldn't find them. And if you're in Australia, that shop is called Super Cheap Auto. So I just ended up walking out. So because I still need to get these spacers on and the springs, like I'll just bring the spring up. All right, we've got to put a bit of compression into it to get it in. Even when this is fully dropped, I still need to compress this about 100mm to get it on. So they should be here tomorrow. So in the meantime, I'm going to take the front panel off the bull bar and get to the steering stabilizer and replace that. Oh, and also the Swaybar. We'll do that at the same time before I forget again. Let's take this Swaybar off first. I hope it's 12mm. That's what I've got. Yay, 12mm. There we go. One sway bar out of the way. I don't know if the other one comes with bolts or not, so I'll just leave those there for a second. And we'll go get the new one. Now, because we're lifting this 3 inches or 80mm, just got some sway bar relocation kit before we put the actual new sway bar on. There it is there. So includes stabilizer, bushings and brackets and a whole bunch of bolts. So once again, things have come to a grinding halt because these are the bolts that I got in the kit, and yeah, we're missing a lot. Essentially, these are supposed to go in there, but they're supposed to be like an Allen key bolt. So they sit in there all nice and flush. But that doesn't even come through, because I'll put the picture up there now. And they're supposed to sit like, so there's your mounting holes. It's supposed to sit there like that. And even what Hard Race have done here with these is I've mounted them upside down, because the logo is around the wrong way. And as you can see in the picture, it's around the correct way. And the other one is exactly the same, so it's not like there's a left and right. Oh, it's just how it is, but they've put the wrong bolts in the kit. What this does is it moves the Swaybar down and back to bring everything back into alignment when you've got a lifted car. So that's why I need these, but I need the right bloody bolts to fit in there and be nice and flush and just sit there. I'll see what I've got in the cupboard, but I'm not sure if I've got ones that are long enough, that's all. I'll be back in a tick. So I've managed to get the proper bolts now. It's just a little bit disappointing that you have to run them upside down for them to work, because lack of quality control. They put the they put the label up the wrong way. Okay, new one versus old one. This one just has an adapter pin with a sleeve you put in, adjustable. First things first though, we've got to take some stickers off because not sponsored. You can get it off. Oh, I'll take it off and get back to you. There you go. So now you know which steering stabilizer I'm putting in. But as with anything that's not sponsored, being anything that's not my own bank account, we are not going to leave those labels on. Not run around with a whole bunch of stickers on the car to say, look what I've got on my car. Those people are just vlogs. That's why I try and de-sticker as much as I can. Especially when it comes to aftermarket parts and that sort of thing. Alright, just a little bit of a grease in that. Not sure what to tighten that to. I'm just going to send it once it's in there. But yeah, put that one in there now. Work out what the adjustments are going to be later on. It's like 9 stage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we'll go back 1, 2, 3, 4 and leave it on that. We'll see how that is to start off with and go from there. But we'll put that back in the car first. It's 47 degrees in here and it is cooking. Alrighty, adjustable steering dampener is in, so let's go get the bolts so I can mount this bloody sway bar. So now I've disconnected the brake lines, I've removed the bar, I've got brake fluid leaking everywhere. So I'm going to work quick. I'll lower this diff all the way to the ground as far as you go. Should be able to go all the way to the ground actually. There should be nothing holding it up now, it's just keeping it in line with the radius arms. Go slow. Prop shafts clear. ABS lines are about the only things that are going to get in the way now, but should have more leverage front and rear. Surely that's enough. Surely we can get a spring in. Hopefully. Crap. Come on. Just gotta get over that. So now I'll need the spring compressors just a little bit. That should be all we need to do. Should be. Not promising anything. Woohoo! That's 2. Let's get in the right spot. which is there. All right, that's the right spot for that side. Let's go to the other side, get these brake lines on and hose the car down. Well, now that we're waiting for the floor to dry a bit, we can get the tops of the shocks in. Right, it's the bottom of the shocking. I think there's a 14mm at the top. Oh no, it's a weird, it's 15mm. Just going to get to the point where you can get a little spanner on top to grab it so you can tighten it up properly. Like now, so it's starting to twist a little bit. You don't want that. So this side's done. I'll just go do the other side and then we'll come back and do the stabilizer bar. Alrighty, so here's a good look underneath. Front panhard rod is in, so the black one. It's going to need crazy adjustment once it goes in for an alignment. Steering wheel's way out, but I'm going to bleed the brakes now while these are off because obviously I took them off, so I need to bleed them. I'll do the rears as well. Put the wheels on, and then we'll get. Oh, still got to put the cross member back in. So I'll put the cross member back in, and yeah, bleed the brakes and try and adjust the steering wheel before we take it in for an alignment. Alrighty, I'll show you what this looks like. 80mm lift with standard wheels and tyres. We'll get rid of the music. So that is an 80mm lift, standard wheels and tyres. Looks absolutely ridiculous. So what we'll do now is I've got another wheel, which is the standard to what people seem to be putting on. Okay, so I've just grabbed my dad's caravan tyre because it's the same size tyre as what everyone seems to be going for, which is on standard rims anyway, 235 75 15 on a 15x7 rim. Fills it out really nicely, so 7-inch wide is good, but trying to get 16x7s, it's not that common, especially for alloys, and the ones that they do make are stupid expensive. So I'm going to put the 31s on anyway, just to see what it looks like, because I reckon it look cool. I've seen what it looks like, but I'll just want to show you the difference. So that could still be a goer. So there we have it. That is the machine with 31s, so on the stock rims. I've just been informed that the missus really likes the stock rims, so it's going to be a compromise. I'm going to have to find some tyres that are a bit bigger than the 235 75s, but still fit on the standard 15-inch rim. And there's not many going around, so we'll see what we can do. Had to change my t-shirt. It's like 35 degrees, and changing tyres is very sweaty. So yeah, so that's an 80mm lift, 31-inch tyres. We're going to take the profile down just a little bit. Anyway, that's it for this one for the time being, and let's go try and find some tyres, maybe wheels. We'll see how we go. I've got a few other things coming though, so I've still left the bottom tray off the bull bar because I'm going to be mounting the winch, and a couple other things are coming which may arrive any week. I ordered them before Christmas and then they shut down, so it's a matter of whenever they kick back up again. But yeah, it's coming along. It's going to get there, and then we're actually going to go for a bit of a Forby trip. We're going to go test it out. I just want to get the wheels and tyres sorted and the wheel alignment done at least before we start going into the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I'll catch you in the next one.